Okay, all right. So my screen visible to you guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's start then. So today's agenda item, we will be discussing the access modifier with inheritance that we discussed little bit in last class, but we will revisit this concept once again. Other than that, the overriding introduction I'll be giving, and binding of variables and method at compile time and run time that we will be looking today, and what are the role of static members including method and variables in inheritance, that will also we will look, and what are the feature of overriding and the casting over here also. The casting we discussed last time related to the primitive, but with respect to the inheritance, what happens and what is a role of instance of operator over there, that we will be looking first. And if time allows, we will further go and look different things. So starting with the first item itself, the access modifier with inheritance. This particular thing I have discussed with Anil last time uh, in question and answer session, but I would like to repeat this once again as I did not discuss it with Madhu.
Yeah, yeah, because that conversation was just like offline between you and me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I have recorded that conversation also, and I'm gonna upload that so that Madhu can use that. In fact, I try to connect. I'll be connecting to Madhu later. Yeah,
Okay. But anyhow, I can repeat that quickly.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
please repeat. Yeah.
So Madhu, feel free to stop me if you have any question anywhere, right? So last time we were discussing related to the access modifier roles with respect to the inheritance. So let's try to understand the same terminology in the realistic way, or the far more easier way. Imagine there is a family, and this family has four members: a father and son, daughter, and their uncle. They all are living in a same family, F1, right? And the later on that daughter get married and she started living with her husband. So she shifted from family F1 to family F2 in different house. So she lives with her husband. So like now in family F2 there are two members, husband and daughter. And couple of more things, as naturally the son inherits the property of his father. He extends father, and the daughter obviously also extend the father, although she is in a different house now. So the analogy is like, now right now we have two family, and in one family there are three family members: father, son, and uncle. And the second family, in second house, we have two family members like the husband and the daughter of that particular father, and she also extends the father. So now we have lot of properties, I mean various properties related to the public and default and protected and private here with the father, and we will try to see that how much visibility it has with respect to the different person or different classes. So I'm straight away going to my IDE, and we will see from there who has what visibility. So this is a father class, and this father class has four different variable: private, default, protected, and public members. Just randomly I have given 1, 2, 3, 4 because our intention is to understand the access modifier visibility in different classes, nothing else. Now coming to the son, which is again residing in the same house, and see over here, if you will observe this class carefully, I did not provide any property to the son class, and it's just extending to the father class. So whatever the rule is applicable, I mean whatever the access modifier this son class can extend from the father class, it will be here. We will be discussing about that shortly. And again for the uncle, this class is not inheriting anything. I mean they are of single family, son, father and uncle, but the uncle is not extending anything in this class. So he can access we have discussed the other way that the default, protected and public, these three members are accessible anywhere within a package without any problem. So they all are residing in the same house, so these three variables would be available to the uncle class also. And the below three, and the private variable would not be accessible anywhere, even in the inheritance hierarchy also. Now coming to the daughter class, have a look at this. This is the package P2 is different. That means the house is different now. So she is again extending the father class. So that means she has the same kind of authority like the son. She can access different access modifiers, and obviously her husband, who is residing, both are residing in the same house. So now we will look the access modifier one by one in various classes. So we already are clear about the private member and a public member. There is no doubt, like the private member would not be accessible anywhere. We have discussed these things in detail. And the secondly, the public member also, which is accessible anywhere regardless of the package hierarchy or the different classes in the same package. So two things we are quite clear, so I'm not going to discuss these things right now once again. The focus would be on the default member and protected member, because these are a little bit confusing with respect to the understanding. Although we have a little bit understanding, like the default member has no reachability outside the current package. So whatever, or in other words, if I take the same this example, if I talk, then the all the member of single family can have access of this variable without any trouble. Like whosoever reside in the same house or same package, without any problem, that particular person can access or class can access this default member. Protected, again the same thing. If I define in a mathematical way the protected, then it is default plus only in the subclass. Outside of that particular package. So only subclass can access it, no one else in that subclass package structure or that house. Only the subclass who has a license to access the protected access specifier. So they pretty much clear cut definition about the protected, like protected has a greater boundary than the default. We discussed the I mean the visibility factor also about everything. Like for public, we have greater visibility than protected, then comes the default, and then comes the private. So now let's look into the sun class first. Now have a look at over here. Sun class extends father. So default member, you can see there is no error I can see over here. This particular stuff is inherently coming over here without even I don't have to give the father class itself over here. Like I don't need to provide to access the default member if it for father dot default member. because it is just like this is a part of the same class, this variable. So if you want to access that, as the default member is static variable, so without any problem the static method can access that. It's just like the default member is defined in this class as a member variable itself, but that is static. So without any problem, the son can access the default member. The protected member, again the same concept, like within a family, the protected member is not a problem, and the public also not a problem. While only problem with the private member, you cannot access the father's private property over here. Like the private member is not accessible right now. Correct. Now going to the daughter class, almost same visibility would be there, but now she has started living at different house, so she does not have right to access the default member. And private member, of course, she does not have any visibility. So what she has, the protected and public access specifier or the variables she can access in that class. So have a look at here also. This class is extending further, and the protected member and public member are being accessible without any problem. See, just like these are the local variable itself for this class. I would not say local variable, but the global variable, the static variable of the part of this class itself. That's why I did not give, even if she is in different package, but I'm not accessing by creating an object or by the class name itself, because this is the static access specifier.
And can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Kanhaiya? So that's why I think it doesn't, I mean, as we discussed earlier, that's why it doesn't make sense to have a composite relationship of father class over here to
Def-
create father class objects,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, yes, right. That is, I mean, if you inherit and provide the composite relationship over there, Java will work whatever the rule applicable, but that would be called a bad design and create a lot of confusion. So we should not do both things, like creating an object or provide a composite relationship and father. See, I would like to make one thing clear over here. Say for an example, let's discuss composite relationship and inheritance in little more detail. And inheritance. When I say why do I use the inheritance, because the motivation behind the inheritance is code reuse, right? I don't want to write the duplicate code once again, right? Eliminate duplicate code. That is why in any class, like in the father class, daughter class have the same property, and we are not writing over here. We want to eliminate that. And the son class also have some common properties of father class, and we don't want to write that. And even the method, if it would have something like over here we have a simple method, I don't want that. We want that the son and daughter class also have that method, but I don't want to write that. That is why I do that. So what we do, we write a less code over here. So inheritance, what it does, if I define something in the parent class, then and if that has the relationship with respective child classes, then there is no need to define that code once again in the child class. Now coming to the composite relationship. What composite relationship says? Only it says that create an object in the class, or in other words, the inheritance was we have seen is a relationship, and the composite has a relationship. If you will observe that particular things carefully, if I create an object of any class in some other class, like here is father class, right? And let's say father has method m1. I'm not writing in detail. M2, the definition is over there, just assume that. And M3. So now the son class, and assume these are public. Now son class, when it extends father class, it would have all these three methods without any problem. If I create an object, and you can access these all three methods in son class also. Why? If I don't extend the father class and remove the father class from here, and if I create an object in this class like the father, this time I'm not accessing anything, I mean extending anything, father equal to new father. So this is a kind of composite relationship. I said whatever the object we create and the member variables are called like a has a relationship or composite relationship. Now I can do the same thing. I don't have to write anything in this class. What I can do, if I want to access M1, M2, M3, I'll be doing F1 dot M1 and everything would be available to me. I did not define anything over here. If I do F1 dot M2, then that would also available over here. So what I have done, I just created an object and all these three methods are available over here without writing these one over here. So what we do when we extend the same thing over here, that is automatically available, and we are again breaching the rule. The only difference is that through the, if that is, if we create an object in other class, then only the public access modifier would be available. If the same object, same classes are available in the same package hierarchy, then whatever the rule applicable related to the access modifier is applicable over there. So we will be seeing these concepts once again related to the composite relationship and other stuff later on, but just for the sake of information that the same thing has been going on with the composite relationship also. I mean, there is famous saying in Java that prefer composite relationship over inheritance, or that we will be discussed later.
Oh,
When
okay.
so
We'll be
any question?
curious. Yeah, I'll be curious.
Yeah, so I'll be
Yeah,
explaining that one sometime later.
sure.
So right now we have seen the daughter class, and the if I uncomment the private, you all know that private won't work over here. But default, now family has changed, the house has changed, it would start complaining. You cannot access me like this. Even if I try something like this, the same problem would be there. So it's not like that I call it as it is static. I can call it through the class name itself. So that was for the daughter class. Now coming to the two interesting classes, the uncle class and husband class, because they don't have the direct relationship with father, but they both are residing. One is residing with the same house with father, and the other one is in different house. So how they see their visibility. First thing, see over here, whatever the variable I access, I have given explicitly the class name to access that. Why? Because it is not extending anything, so it's not like that it will get something as a free of cost in this class. It cannot access, like if I remove father and the default member and other stuff would be available. That can be available only if that particular is the part of this class only, that variable. So first thing, note that to access, if uncle wants to access something of father class, he first load the class, and after the dot operator he can access the different access modifier. So for father, if I have double click over here, this class, as I said, belongs to the same family or same house. Default, protected and public are automatically available to the uncle class if I talk with respect to the father, right? So there is no problem in this. Now coming to the, with for uncle with respect to the son, again, as same variable are coming up to the son from the father itself. So the default and protected and public member variables is again accessible through son also, because son did not define anything, but son is inheriting the property of father. So uncle class can look into the default protected and public member through son class also. If the uncle class does not want to go to the father class, these things would be available through son class also. Now have a look at one more thing over here, daughter class. The important thing over here, daughter class again inherit protected public and member from the father class. So the uncle class can access the protected and public member, but private, of course, it cannot access of any person in uncle. But default member is also not available. So do not get confused that why default member is not available over here while they are of same family. Why? Because now daughter has departed and started living into the different house, and she does not have a license to access the default member. So how could a uncle class using a daughter class can access the default member? So that's why the default member, these variables, however, directly, available to the father class and son class, which are of same family, the uncle class can access, but through daughter class, it does not have now visibility constraint coming up over here, because the daughter is in different class or different package. So commenting out that part also. Now coming to the husband class, the last class, the second house, the different house, and what visibility it has. It does not have direct relationship with the father. It just has a relationship with her daughter, sorry, his daughter. So now coming to these stuff, we know that the public access specifier would be available over here, and definitely private would not be accessible over here. Default, even daughter does not have authority to access, so the husband obviously have no rights to access the default members. If I uncomment, it will give some error, right? Now coming to the protected one. So protected one, now with respect to the husband has not is not a direct subclass of father, right? So if it tried to access the protected access specifier, it should cause problem. Only the daughter class have a license to access the this protected access specifier. So within a boundary of husband, the protected variable would cause problem if I access through the father class. Even through the daughter class have the visibility of the protected access specifier, but that not go beyond that particular class itself. And the daughter class has only authority up till this class only, not beyond that. So the husband class is different than the daughter. So using the daughter class itself, the protected member is not available. That means protected goes beyond the boundary, beyond the house, but that is restricted to the that particular class only, which is the subclass of the parent class. No other class has the rights to access that particular variable. So that's why it is causing problem over here and giving us the compile time error. So that was it related to the access modifier with inheritance. The other stuff, if you want to know in detail, then maybe the Anil has recorded the last session, so you can go through that session. So any question so far? If something is not clear, I can help out. Else I can move on to the other concepts.
I'm good.
So
Thank
you
you.
explained from a static variable perspective. The same holds true for non-static also, right?
Yes, correct. One thing keep in mind. Let me tell you one thing, that static and non-static both are inheritable. The inheritance is applicable for both variable. or both methods, static and non-static, doesn't matter over here. There is lot of confusion among the developer community. If you Google it, is static is inheritable or is inheritance is possible with static keyword, you will see lot of thread in Stack Overflow, the famous site which provide the question and answer, and a lot of community developer community member over there, and lot of confusing statements over there where a lot of developers says that the static are not meant for the inheritance, but that is incorrect statement. Static is also inheritable. We have seen in this example, if it would not have been inheritable, then we cannot directly access this. If I'll have to create an object, or in other words, I'll have to apply like father dot default member, then only it was accessible. So keep in mind one thing: whenever there is any doubt, refer to the Oracle standard document. Over there, maybe you might have the foremost correct information or there only, because Stack Overflow is like a developer community only. You and me can provide your inputs over there, so maybe many times wrong, but this is very widely concept in Google Stack Overflow, where lot of people say that static variable or methods are not inheritable, but that is not correct. We will see after little while related to the this concept also. Then when I'll be discussing static member in inheritance, we'll be looking into the this part with respect to the method also. Right now we have seen the variables. The slight difference is like they are inheritable but not overridable. Overriding is not possible.
But static?
Yes, overriding is not
Okay.
possible. If I say the static is a bigger umbrella, then overriding is a subset of that bigger umbrella only, a part of that bigger umbrella only. So the particular subset is not possible. Overriding we cannot do. That is called different concept, the method hiding over there, that we will be discussing after some time today. Before that, I'll be covering up the overriding introduction and other things. So let's start with the other concept now, that is overriding introduction. Before that, just give me 1 minute break. Let me bring water for me. All right.
Yes, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sure.
So you've been talking about the variables as well as the methods, right? So we
Yes.
have the static block, these instance blocks. How do they come in with regards to inheritance?
See, static block and these things are not inheritable. These things belongs to that particular class boundary itself, and remember they are the part of the static block. Certainly is not extendable. It stays in the stack block. So whenever that particular class will be loaded, that along with that class the static block get executed. So it doesn't come in the boundary of the inheritance. And same goes for the this static I mean the initializer block also, instance initializer block also. Instance initializer block binded to the constructor. So whenever that constructor would be called, there might be a chance that I mean inheritance is possible into the constructor. So whenever that, say I have one constructor in parent class and the same constructor in the some child class, right? So whenever that particular constructor would be called, then at the time of that calling of constructor, before that that instance initializer block would get called. But we cannot do something like that. We can redefine I mean they override that particular static block in subclass and something like that. It's not like a variable or method like we create an object and provide a dot operator and access that over there. So such facilities are not available. They are just residing at the certain place, and with their rules, when class would be loaded, static stuff would get loaded whenever the turn comes for that class, through the inheritance or directly, doesn't matter. And whenever the time for come for execution of constructor, that particular instance initializer block get executed. So it does not come into directly into the inheritance hierarchy. Like inheritance concept specifically to this block are not possible, in other words. Okay,
Okay.
all right. So moving on to the overriding introduction. So we have seen little bit on the overriding on day one itself. Like we were discussing, we have seen the overloading concept through the real world analogy, and the overriding concept also through the real world analogy. Like, and we concluded that the method signature must be same into the parent class and child class, and the body can be different. So I was explaining the other day, like you are playing the QA role right now, and you have a method in the parent class like play role, and the public void play role is your method name, and in parent class you have the QA role, and in child class if you have the same method name like the public void play role, same, this is exist in the parent and child both. And in child class maybe you can have the altogether different responsibility. Now you are playing the responsibility of developer or lead or whatever. So that would override whatever the responsibilities have in the parent class. Or maybe you can have the dev plus QA both roles available. So whatever we gonna change into the method, so what is over here? You can completely change the responsibility. You can enhance the responsibility, like earlier it was QA, but it is playing now the developer role also. So this is called overriding. If you have the license to completely override something which the particular person is doing earlier, or you can even extend beyond that. So that is particularly called overriding. As far as the parent class and the child class have the same signature, same method signature uh, exist over there. So let's have a quick look into the notes section itself, and then we will be doing a lot of example around this. So method overriding definition is like redefine behavior of superclass method, right? We can completely redefine the superclass method behavior. What we can redefine? Add new behavior, like we discussed QA plus now developer also. Extend behavior, maybe earlier that person was QA, now he is playing only the developer role. Or better, providing better implementation. You think sometime that in parent class that particular method is not good according to me, so in child class you can completely override that method and redefine the definition whatever you want. So these are a few use cases where the overriding comes into the picture. Now I'll be discussing this. Before that, yeah, the only thing I want to show you this thing, like this is a method public, it has a return type, it has a method name, it has a number of parameter, and it throws some exception. So all together all these are called the method signature. Like these all are called the method signature if I include everything over here. So these all must be same into the subclass. Only the body part, the curly bracket, whatever we write into the method body can be changed in case of overriding. So we'll be looking these things now. Okay. Now coming back to the example section for overriding, and we will be discussing the features and property of overriding one by one. So let's take an familiar example which we discussed in the inheritance understanding, like the employee, and that particular employee has lot of subclasses. Like we have seen the programmer, manager, astronaut, and the other things at the time of understanding of inheritance. So same example now we will be discussing for the overriding also. So have a look at this class. This is employee class, and employee class has two methods available in this class. Both are public access specifier. Both have. And first method is reach office. Every employee reaches to the office, and say for an example, I'm printing that I reach every employee would, the employee location is Gurgaon office in India. So just writing down something like this in the employee class. And the other one like start project work. So before starting the project work, if the employee is new, then he would be procure hardware and install the mandatory software before starting his or her work. So in the employee class, we have the generic stuff, the two methods. Now coming to the child class of the employee class, manager, obviously a child of employee class, which is a subclass of employee class. So when we say subclass of employee class, it would have inherently accessibility of reach office and start project work, because maybe regardless of the package hierarchy, if this is in same package or different package, public is available, access modifier is available. So reach office is available to this class, and start project work also available to this particular manager class. Now notice one thing, I want to get benefit of inheritance, then I won't be redefining the reach office, because I already know that every employee should supposed to reach into the only the single location in India. So every employee supposed to reach into the Gurgaon office only. So I will not redefine that particular reach office method in the subclass manager class. If I try to do that, like if I change it to the Noida or Hyderabad, something else, then it would be overriding. I am redefining this particular method, but just for the sake of simplicity, so that we can understand everything, what is inheritance over here and what is overriding. So in subclass, I did not change anything. It is left as it is, and nothing has changed in the subclass. Now coming to the start project work. Now start project work, I am clear cut. I'm pretty much clear that the manager would have a different responsibility than developer. So I'll have to redefine it. When I say redefine it, I'll be overriding it. Maybe the whatever the general employee does, it's not applicable to the manager class and employee class. There could be a HR personnel also. So all are the different classes. So here comes the use case for me that I'll have to override the start project work. Now what manager can do? It can do different things like the meeting with the customer, define project schedule, and the assign responsibility to the team members. So these are the different methods. So I have provided three features or three operations inside this start project work itself. And these three features are part of the manager class itself. So these are the independent feature or independent behavior of the manager class, while we have overridden, not overloaded. Keep in mind, I did not overload something. It's a case of overriding, because if you see the employee class and you relook into the manager class, everything is same over here, right? So both are like a similar one. Notice here and here the method signatures are absolutely same, no doubt in that. Now moving on to the programmer class. Programmer again extend the employee. I did not override the first method, which is the location of the that employee. So that is left as it is into the employee class. I don't want to make the duplicate code over here. And the only method is again eligible for the overriding is start project work. So the programmer would certainly have the different responsibility, like it does coding like define classes and something else, and the same time unit test code as well. So just for the sake of simplicity, it has two responsibility. So I have overridden in the start project work the define classes and unit test code, and these two methods define classes itself and unit test code, test code is the private or the particular method of the programmer class itself. So all in all, this is a candidate of method overriding. We have overridden the method. Now we will be seeing different stuff by running this particular class into the IDE and try to understand. It has a lot of other concept also. So let me go back to the IDE and close this down. Overriding, yes. Okay, let me open all these. So if you select every classes pressing shift and enter, all classes would get opened into the IDE in single go. Okay, so the same employee class is here and the manager extends employee is here and programmer extend employee here, right? And we have already discussed these things. Now we will writing a test class so that we can understand the overriding concept easily. So here is my first class. Let me comment this out for now. What I gonna do now, I create an object of employee 1. Okay, and it calls reach office and a1 dot start project work. So what would be the output of this execution? Can you help me out? Which method would be called?
The
We have,
main one, which is an employee.
yes, we have employee, we have programmer, and we have manager. So I'm just writing in a shortest way: employee, programmer, and manager. Reach office I would be writing like R only, and start project work SP only. So you are saying this, whatever is exist into the employee class, that would get executed, right? That stuff we have seen, so we are pretty much clear. Whatever the object we would be creating, a simple case, the same thing would get executed. So there is no rocket science over here. When I'll be executing this, the reached office Gurgaon, which is common for everything and defined in the employee class itself, that gets printed. And we have defined like procure hardware and install software in the employee class itself, so that get executed over here. So simple class, we, even if we have provided some inheritance or overriding over here, but we are not taking a help of that particular stuff in this particular task. So now let me create other object. Now I'll be creating an object of programmer. Programmer p1 equal to new programmer, and I do same thing for the programmer also. Which one get printed now?
So dot reach office is which is dot overridden, so that will come from employee class only. And start project work, that is overridden, so that programmer's body will get executed.
Absolutely right. What it will do, whenever I'll define this, for this method, it will first come here and consult with this class. Do I have reach office over here? Oh no, I don't have. Can I extend some other class? Do I extend some other class? Yes, I extend employee class. So let me consult to the employee class. It will go over here and see, yes, reach office method is over here. So what it gonna do? It will print whatever is written into the reach office of employee class. So this is now we are leveraging the power of inheritance. Without writing anything, we can reach to the parent class and execute its method. Second stuff, it again come over here, consult with the programmer class. Yes, I have start project work, and the same thing is the parent also, but I have redefined the game rules now for this particular start project work. So it would be executing whatever written into the start project work. So when I execute this program, this again the Gurgaon office, okay, get printed. Let me comment this out so that no confusion over there. So Gurgaon office, the reach office method is this, and now see, no installation and procurement of hardware and software is over here. Just define classes and unit test code, which we have seen is a property of programmer, been displayed over here. And no need to write for the manager class. If I create an object of manager class, and if I create an I mean call that respective methods, the same thing would happen with the manager class also. I mean this time around, if I create an object of manager's stuff would get called right now instead of this one. Now, overriding is not meant for this thing. It has a completely other thing, a very interesting thing with it. So that we will be discussing now. And before that, I'll have to introduce one more concept like the binding of variables and method at compile time and run time also. What get bind which time? The one more small concept. So before that, just imagine now onwards, if I have anywhere parent and child classes, then there are few possibilities of creating an object. I can do parent p1 equal to new parent, and same goes for child c1 equal to new child, and one more thing, that is a power of overriding. Now if these classes have relationship, so I can write something like this also, parent pp1 equal to new child. So what does it means? That I have child class, but a parent can have accessibility of child class also. Now if you have a particular relationship, inheritance relationship, then through the parent remote control also you can operate the method and variable of the child classes. So whatever is written into the I mean the reference must be same through of the parent class, and it can access the child classes variables and method also, but it has little bit restriction over here. What are the restrictions? Like here is my parent class, okay, and say the same class employee, if we consider I'm writing m1 m2 m3 here, m1 and m2, two methods are available here, and the child class would automatically would have the access of m1 m2 even if I write it or not. If I want to override, that is okay, I can override also over here m1 and m2, and say it has few more method available, one more, not more than that, that we have seen in the manager and the programmer class, they have their own. So what is a license for parent class to access the child class method? Only whatever is defined into the parent class it can access of the child class. Like M1 is defined into the parent class, M2 is defined into the parent class, so it has the license to access these two variables only. It don't know, parent doesn't know, this reference is doesn't know that what is written into the child class, right? So what is binded with the child class, whenever I'll be doing, I can do only pp1, or rather write it like this fast, pp1 dot m1 and pp2 dot m2 only. Now pp reference or parent class doesn't know about anything. If you try to do pp1 only, not 2, 1 dot m3, it will give you compile time error. So just like this new possibility is also possible in the overriding method, and this is the original concept of polymorphism. If somebody is saying what is polymorphism, technically initially I said overloading and overriding both are the part of polymorphism. That is somehow true, but if somebody wider in the developer community, if somebody says that establish a polymorphic relationship between these classes, then imagine that somebody is creating object something like this. The parent reference would be over there, and the object of the child class would be over there. Like in this case, if I would have been created for that employee, manager and the programmer class, three classes, and they have their relationship, employee, manager and programmer. So if I would have created an object, I could have done employee equal to new employee, and the other stuff we have already seen. You can easily do the, you can create an object of manager also, and you can create an object of programmer also using the parent class reference. The programmer also object can be created, but this would be the incorrect statement. Like if I write something like this, manager m equal to new
employee.
employee. Sorry, not only the employee, I'll discuss that also. Like programmer, these are siblings, but they don't have direct relationship. You cannot write something like this. This is incorrect statement, or vice versa is also incorrect. Like the programmer reference, and you create an object of manager now. Now one more thing, the reverse thing, like the references of the child class and the object is created of the parent class is again not supported in Java. Like you cannot write something like this, the reverse way of writing, like manager m equal to new employee. This is again not possible. Alright, so keep these things in mind. When we say polymorphism, there must be some relationship between the classes, like this, one class, parent class, and different child classes, like this. And we can have a reference of parent, a simple understanding, and the object of child classes, this child C1 and C2, and parent P. So a reference entitled here and object entitled here. That is a power of polymorphism. You can easily change the I mean, we will see the benefit of the polymorphism when we will be seeing the collection API and different things. then you will see that how quickly I change the implementation, and the lesser code I'll have to make changes here and there, and the polymorphism is working fine. Like same thing, I established the collection hierarchy. I have not introduced interface as of now, but I'll be introducing that. It also has the list interface, and like the class is, as of now, imagine list class is over there, while that is interface. I did not introduce you, so I'm saying class. And here it has array list over there, and the linked list subclasses over there, and more classes, just I think two classes. So if you provide something like this, list equal to wherever applicable list, l equal to new array list, uh, that would work fine. And some other day you think that array list is was not a case, it was causing some issues. Like I'll be discussing in greater detail what is a pros of the array list, when you'll have to use the array list, and what is the candidate of the linked list. So what you have done, that you incorrectly implemented in your program, and that is running through the array list itself. But now you are having the performance problem in your program. It is taking a lot of time to execute, while you come to know that it would have been far more busy, that you would have used the linked list over there. So only thing, the only one thing you have to make change in your program is just change the implementation, the same program new, and now introduce the linked list. Everything would have the same method available, everybody override the same sort of method. So just one line of change, and the whole word get changed for you. It would be calling now the linked list related methods now, rather than the array list. And just changing one keyword would get the performance improvement in your classes. So those are the benefit of the polymorphism. You can on the fly change the implementation of any class without touching lot of part of the code or lot of code changes. So maintenance cost is really reduced by using of the polymorphism. So few things take away from the polymorphism concept or the overriding concept, that these things would be widely used, and the object would be created something like this, which we have discussed right now. The parent reference would be there, and the child object would be created, and what would be called, we have seen. So we'll be seeing these one more time through the I mean example itself. But before
Um,
that, yeah, go on, man.
yeah, I have not understood. I think I understand what you are saying, but the thing is like, okay, so we can create employee object on its own separately,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and just simply access employees methods and variables. Other one is create child objects separately
Mm-hmm.
and then access straight away child variables and methods.
Yes.
So why do we do like, parent p1 equal to new child? What is the advantage? Why do we do that? Because what does it mean? What is it that it's going to give us actually? Give the parent.
No, it's not giving
I mean,
anything. I mean, there is famous saying, again, I'll be introducing that particular stuff, program to interface. In the design practice, program to interface means right now the things you are seeing is the classes only. Later on I'll be introducing the interface also. An interface is just like a contract only. You not even be defining any class over there. The classes, the methods, sorry, you won't defining any method over there. There would be only contract, M1, M2, M3, something like that, and there is no definition residing over there. So only the child classes which extend that particular interface, or we say that implementation in the implements rather than the extend for the child classes, they would be extending their behavior. So I'll be discussing that part in detail when I'll be introducing interface. Then the things would make more sense, or you would have more understanding that why we are doing something like similar stuff. One thing I
okay,
can say right now, that imagine that as I taken the example of linked list and array list, just imagine that this is a super class and these are the child classes. And superclass is, say for an example, I can add something into the list, just two method, although it has lot of method, and just remove something from the, let me write in this, just
Yeah, add and remove. Two
yes,
methods are there in
add
the
and remove is available into the list class. Right now I'm saying class, not interface. And the same method I override for the array list, add and remove, whatever the algorithm available for the add and remove for the array list. And same goes for the linked list also, because algorithm side or data structure side, they have different implementation and work through the different concept. Like linked list maintain the nodes, and one node has the address of other node. So I'll be discussing at the time of the linked list, sorry, the collection API introduction. So something like this, imagine these two variables. What I have done in my program, that right now I was not aware something like I was adding some product in my databases. So I was using the array list over there, and I just create an object of array list using this linked list itself, right? The reference was of linked list and the implementation was the array list, and I was writing like L dot add, right? And it would behaving like the array list method would get called in this case. Later on, after few days, I have added lot of methods using the array list, and now this program has become unresponsive, or it's taking lot of time. Say for an example, whatever I want to achieve, it is taking 4 5 seconds, and I don't want this amount of time. And later on, when I realized, I looked into the linked list structure, the same operation can be performed in far more better way or fast way. So what I gonna do, I'll go to my program and I just change the one line over there. Earlier it was taking the link array list, I just replace it with the linked list. No other method or the part of the program I had to make changes, like it is adding something, there might be a chance it was removing something or adding lot of method over here. Like I'm not only adding a product, I'm adding say 50 60 product over there. So it's not like that, as I have given the same method name add only. So I did not do anything, I mean I did not change in these line of code. So maintenance cost has reduced, and on the fly I was able to change the implementation over there. And the things, when I'll be introducing the inheritance, then these things would be more clear, and you would see the more power of the polymorphism, why we would do something like this and what is the power. So as and when you would be seeing more example, then the concept would be get more robust to you. So wait until I introduce few more concepts to you. There are a lot of things, like the interface is remaining, abstract class is remaining. So these concepts again revolve around that also, and the other stuff like collections API and all.
uh, then for now, what I can maybe I can what I can summarize is we can do that way. We
Yes,
can do like we can create a reference of parent to a child class, basically child
yes,
object or whatever it is. So that's what we can think
right.
right now. And maybe maybe we will see down the line as you explain more concepts. Hopefully I will
Yes,
understand
more
this
concept and
concept.
more program we will be seeing. I'll be reiterating the older concept. Whatever we have done earlier, like a final keyword we have read, but it has come again in the inheritance and such kind of thing. Static we have read separately, but later on the inheritance also it is using. So whenever we will keep moving on, the missing dots would get connected, and you would have more understanding around that, right? So just,
One, one
yeah,
you
go
go
on.
on. No, one thing issue, as I said, I have only little more introduction. I have know a little bit of C sharp. I was telling you in the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have seen this kind of thing, but I never understood this.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'm here to explain this, but wait
Uh,
until I cover few more topic around this. And whenever that scenario I'll be taking, I'll say you that here see the power of polymorphism, why it is having the less low, I mean less cost and something like that.
okay, we can park it now then for now.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Okay. So one more thing before executing. So let's execute this program in this way now. So rather than that, uh, let me uncomment this itself. So when I have a employee one reference, right, and create an object of programmer, so what would be the output of this reach office and start project?
That should be accessing the body of programmer, body of management, right?
Right, respectively. First one would be employee through employee one, the body of programmer would get executed, and employee E2 reference, the method manager methods body would get whatever return get executed over here. So if I execute this, see over here reached office, right now we are talking about the programmer. So what it has done, define classes and unit test case, manager reached office, and meet customer, project schedule and teamwork started over there also, right? So they are now accessing using the parent class remote control, they are accessing the child classes without any problem, right? So that was it. Now we will be looking into few more stuff related to the overriding, but before that let me introduce one more concept. Binding of variable and method at compile time and runtime. So just to understand this concept, what is bind at compile time and what is bind at runtime, let's jump to the example itself.
More basic question, what is binding?
Binding means attaching, attached. I mean, how would you attach that particular method? I mean, we create an object and reference also. Like I write this one, employee equal to new manager. So what I have done, I have binded all the variable and method with employee reference now, right? This object, this remote control has all the license to access the member variable, whatever is applicable, and the method uh, accessing related to the manager class. Over here, it has license to access the member variable and method of programmer class. So we are binding each other. So what is happened at compile time and what is happened at runtime, we gonna look that right now in behind the scene, under the hood, what happens and how Java behave in this manner. What get binded at compile time at the creation of dot class itself, and what get binded at runtime at the time of calling of the method. We gonna look that part now, little
Okay.
concept. So let's look into the method and variable binding. Oh, let me close these things. Again, taking the same examples, but this time a different examples. I mean the method and variable. Now we'll understand this. Before that, one second. Do I have any notes? Then I can cover that also. Static member. Do that. Maybe I did not write anything. Okay, I have written the same example. So binding of variable and method at compile and runtime. See, with inheritance, the instance variable bind at compile time while the method bind at runtime. So we gonna understand this concept, that we are saying that instance variable bind at compile time itself at the time of saving of our code, while the method are binded at runtime. So what is that? We gonna look through the example itself. I have employee class. I have a variable string name equal to employee, right? Instance variable. I have one method print name, and I'm printing that whatever the name I have given into the employee class. The same rule, same thing goes for the programmer also. Programmer extends employee. That means name is default, so it should be available into the programmer, and the print method, if I have written something like this, I'm overwriting this, right? I have redefined the same stuff over here. So this is a case of overriding, and this is again, in other words, I can say that I have overridden the instance variable also in the programmer class. That's why I'm writing the string name equal to the programmer. So who has binded which time at the compile time or run time, we will look through the test class itself. We will create a office one object, and we will run this class, and we try to understand what's going to happen over here. So I was saying that variables binded at compile time and method binded at runtime. So what I'm doing right now, I have created an object of employee class, right? Then I have created an object of polymorphic way, or I would be changing these keywords, polymorphic or overridden way. Now I'm printing this down, and I'm printing this, and a few more statements over here. Do object has been created here. So when I say employee emp.name, what according to you should get printed here?
Second, employee. Okay. No, nothing. Sorry, that's fine.
So line number 14 will be whatever is there in the employee.java.
Yes, correct. And
So
what about
string
the,
name equal to employee, right? That's what's going to go.
yes, and what about the
Programmer is going to do whatever
programmer.name?
is there in programmer.
And what about the print name using the employee object?
This one
That will be
employees.
whatever is there in.
It will be employees one, right?
Yes.
Okay, and
Programmer will be programmer.print name will be whatever is there in programmer.print program.
okay, so let me run this, and we will be discussing once again, right? So see over here right now, one second.
Got 3 employees and 1 programmer. Got printed.
Let me remove it, and once again run this. Now we gonna see what going to happen one by one, the line by line, right? And what has binded what. Two objects get created. One is in polymorphic way. That is not a problem to us, right? Now coming over here, the line number 14, which is an employee dot name, come over here. So as I said, that reference variable get resolved at compile time. So whatever the reference you would be using, the reference is the left hand side of this assignment equal to operator, right? So what we have right now, we have a remote control of employee class. So now we look into the variable itself. I'm saying variable binded at compile time. So whenever I have created an object, this string name is bind with this employee reference. This one has been binded. 1 second. Okay, started working. So this one has binded, this line has binded at compile time itself. When the dot class was generated, the variable I was saying that whatever the class we have, whatever the reference we would be creating, it would be binding with that. Same goes for the programmer also. Again, the string name is over here. It would be when the dot class for the programmer would be generated, it would bind the programmer with this variable itself, the instance variable. That is why when we come over here and try to access these, so as I was saying, it has been binded at the time of the compile time itself. So employee.name was printing employee for me, while the same thing is happening for the programmer.name also. It won't, where instance variable will not be looking over here at the new programmer. It has binded with the employee itself. So what it will give, it will again give you the employee itself, because the binding has happened at the compile time itself, and whatever the reference I'm using, it should give me the related output, the employee in this case. If I would have been created the programmer itself over here, then it would bind probably not, absolutely it would bind with the programmer class itself. This time around it should have given you the programmer. Now coming to the method part, method are binded at runtime. Remember, every time that method would always be binded at runtime. Whenever their execution will come, it has to see what object has been created, the right side of this equal to operator. What object is created, whatever object is created, that particular method would get called first. If that is not exist over there, then it will go to the parent class if any hierarchy exists. So what gonna happen in this case? I created an employee object itself here. So what it has done, it returned the employee name itself. While in this case, I create an object of programmer. That is why the print name for the programmer get executed. This time around, the programmer get executed over here rather than the employee, because it has been binded runtime. That is why we say the polymorphism is runtime polymorphism also. Overriding is runtime polymorphism also, because generally we bind the methods. So whatever we are doing with the method over here, I mean whatever the object we create, whatever the child class object, that particular method would be binded at runtime. That's why you are seeing the different output over here, and whatever we anticipate with the variable, that is not happening. So keep clear cut one thing in the mind, that the reference variable are meant to bind at compile time, while the methods are meant to bind at the runtime itself, not with the compile time itself. That's why we are seeing.
So,
Yeah, go on.
so coming to method thing, just want to reiterate my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. So coming to method one, it looks at the right side of the assignment operator, meaning the object basically, what object and what methods does that object have. Based on that, it will give the output. Coming to the earlier one, the instance variable one.
Yes.
So the instance, I'm sorry to ask a redundant question. Are the instance variables called as class variables?
Class variable, instance variable are same thing, non-static variables. Yes, yes.
So that's why. So employee, when you say that, that's kind of reference basically. So it binds at the compile time, and
Or simplistic way, variable get binded compile time, method get binded runtime, no matter what.
because it's an employee programmer, you're saying the line number 12, employee programmer.
Yes.
So employee is a class over there. That's why it binds with that class value basically, right?
Right.
Okay.
And programmer method would get called of the programmer class. Here left hand side employee, think of the variable would get called of the employee class, no matter what variable are, be it static or instance variable or non-static variable. Instance and non-static are same, that would get binded of the reference, whatever reference we have. There might be a chance that reference and object are of same class, like in the first case the object is also employee while the reference is also employee. So both variable and method behave like a similar way. One would have understanding that both are binded at runtime, but that is not a case. Now these things we would be using lot of time the polymorphic cases. So keep in mind that the variable get binded whatever reference we have, and the method get binded whatever object we created. Simple thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Give me